Everybody, please welcome Shiphrah.
Hi ladies.
Hi.
I greet you all. Praise God. I am happy to be here once again. So when we were sharing testimonies, I was like, okay, I don't want to cheat exams and maybe say out part of what I'd planned to say. When I was coming this morning with Pinky in the car, I asked her, okay, what kind of ladies are these? Like, what's the kind of gathering? And then she briefed me out. And then I said, I think I know what I want to share with you. So what I want to share, I think it's just more about myself, what I do, and then how God has guided me or has led me into doing what I'm doing now. So at some point you realize it's a testimony of how God drove me there and how prayer works, so that you have faith in God and how far our faith can take us regardless of how small it is. So yeah, my name once again is Shiphrah. I am 33 years old. I am a mother of 2 boys, 11-year-old and 4-year-old. Yeah, so they have an age difference of 7 years. I live and work in Uganda. I'm just here visiting from Uganda. Been in USA for 3 weeks now. This is like the 4th week. I've spent 3 weeks in California, where I was meeting up and then talking to people. And I recently moved to St. Louis. So this is my 2nd time coming to St. Louis. Yeah, I was here in March, and I happened to be part of a conference. It's the Jewel Warrior Conference that I attended. I was representing some women, a group of women in Uganda that you'll get to know all of in the course of our sharing. And then, yeah, so I stayed for a while. So I finished my studies at the university in 2012, and by then I had a son. I had the son by the time I graduated. So I happened to get my first job in the eastern part of Uganda. So I moved. The school was in the central, so I moved to the western part. That's where my parents were staying. By then I had only a dad. My mom had passed away. And I got a job where I worked as a research assistant. Like, I was doing research for 4 years. And while there, actually it was in the 3rd year, I realized I wasn't happy in this job. I wasn't happy. So it was earning me good money. I was a young girl. I didn't have expenses. I didn't have much. So I had my money. Whenever I got it, I thought of my friends. I would send them money. I would go shopping. I would do that. But that is when I think the year that followed, I got to know about Jesus. So I had a friend of mine. We were in this WhatsApp group, and she always shared testimonies of how she was going to a certain church and they were praying and God was working and was answering their prayers. I was crazy. Like, I was a very stubborn girl. So I was like, she's lying. She's definitely lying. So I remember I sent her a text. I was like, I want to see how that God works, because I feel you are making this up. So she said, you can come to our church. So I happened to go to her church one time, and yeah, they prayed. I felt good about myself. Like, I felt good. I was like, okay, that was good. So I didn't go back to church. But towards the end of the year, of that particular year, she still wrote out to me. She was like, I'm going to church for an overnight, but I was far away from the church. I couldn't attend, but I want to attend on your behalf. So if you have a list of things that you want to write, you want us to pray for, or you're praying to God for, you can just give them to me. And then I would pray for them. They had like a basket of prayer. After praying over your things, or you came up with your list, you would put it in the basket, and the church would just continue to pray over the prayer requests. So I sent in my list, and I was still tempting God. I was like, okay, I need to see how God answers these prayers that she's talking about. So I put things that I thought were impossible. I was like, I need to put things. Yes, I want to test God. Like, things I know He's going to work them out, because He had told me He works. So let me put the impossible ones. So among the things that I put, I was like, I needed a new job, a job that will fit into what I went to school for. I'm a social worker. Like, I went to school, I studied social work. I was like, I needed a job that will where I'll be able to practice what I studied. So I am a student of women's studies. I had a major in women's studies back at the university. So I asked God, I want a job that will put me that, and that will make me independent, that will give me almost everything that I needed. I put it up. So I And then I set out to see how God would bring this to work. So mid that particular year, it was around June, the job that I had by then, they told me the contract was ending. Like the funder who was sponsoring the job, the work was not sending any more money, so we would not continue with the work the next year. I was like, okay. So I sat home. Around that time, my sister had a wedding, so I said, okay, I'll just be off work and prepare my sister's wedding. So immediately the wedding was done, I was like, okay, what next now? And then my other sister had gotten a job in the place where I wanted to stay. And then she had gotten a house and started living there by herself. So she had a lot of room. So one time I was in my bed, I was like, but what am I doing here? My sister she's staying in the place I want to be at, and she has room for me. I'll go there. So I told my father, I was staying with my father, then I was like, you know what? I'm going to the city. So I packed my bags, I held my son, and then off we went to the city. So I sat at my sister's place for about 4 months. And my sister had a friend who was looking for someone that could work in his shop. So I was like, I need someone who is hardworking, who is blah blah, who can work for me in my shop. Do you know anyone? I was like, oh, I have my sister. She's seated at home and she can do this. So I took on the job, not because it was something I wanted to do or was in line with what I wanted to do, but it could keep me busy. So I took on the job just to pass my time. So I served at that job for close to 8 to 1 year. And in the first year, I still, my friend would talk, how are you? How are things going? She would tell me, better things are coming, better things are coming. So one time, the job I was at, we were selling it was like a phone store, selling phones, phone accessories. It was robbed. I was managing the shop. I had locked up in the night. I had taken the keys. So I was taken in for questioning. So in Uganda, anyone who knows Uganda, I was telling people recently that if we are in this room and one of us, God forbid, passes on, all of us have to be held custody, and they say they're investigating something. So until they find it, someone has to answer for what is happening. So the police uses it to save their work because they have to give accountability of what happened. So this and this passed on, and these are the people that were with the person. So they are supposed to help us with the investigation. So they will be with us. So I was taken in. And then when we went to court, they said we needed to raise a tune of not more than 600,000 as a fine, like security, that is like the bond fee you have to pay. But the person who was supposed to take the money was not at court then. So they said, to better off, you have to go to prison. So I was in prison for a tune of 2 weeks at the time. So while I was in prison, I was asking God, why am I here? It's not like I'm lacking the $600 to pay. It was there. But why was there no one to receive it? And then there was a lady I met in prison. She used to preach like every afternoon. The prisons in Uganda, they close up at around 3 p.m. Like the ladies, it's open place. They have halls of residence, but they can be in the compound. And then lock-up time is usually 3 p.m. So we would go in, but then to pass that time, she would come on to preach. So she told, I don't remember the verse, but it was about the fig tree. Not the fig tree. She told about it, like everything bad is drying up. And it is regrowing, it's regrowing up. That this is why God wants in you. So I told God, oh yes, I feel you are putting me in this place, not by coincidence, but you want me to be here. And as I go out, I want you to show me the reason as to why you're putting me in this place. I remember I missed Mother's Day. I missed my son's birthday. I was like, I know, God, why you are putting me in this place. So I'm just waiting to hear it up. So the next day, the day I was supposed to go to court, I got to court. And they were like, we are so sorry, you are in prison, this was not our making, so sorry. Like, it was a mistake. I was in prison all that time. I was like, okay, I've been there for 2 weeks, that is so huge. So I gave up on the job and sat down. So I was on social media, Facebook, and I was in my bed. I was like, oh God, why did you take me to prison? It was so bad, like traumatizing. So one time I was on checking out Facebook. I saw a gentleman writing on one of the groups, was looking for someone who had experience in research. And he needed a lady at that, and he needed someone who had a history of incarceration. Like, he needed someone who knew some that had been to prison. So I was like, okay. So I sent him a text. I was like, I think I fit all those. Like, it was hard in Uganda to come out and declare like you are a woman and you've been out of prison. someone would look at you, maybe you're a criminal, you are so badly off, you are an embarrassment, you cannot be trusted. But here is someone who was looking for one that fits in the description. So I sent him a text. I was like, okay, I'm here. So you have a job? Yes. So I didn't think he was serious. So once I sent him my documents, he looked through them. I gave up. Like you think, maybe he's just gotten so many of those. But he literally looked for me. Like Francis. He looked for me. My phone calls, I would find missed calls, but I didn't even have like credit to call back, so I would let them be. So he'd call my references. Where is Shiphrah? I need this so and so. I need her. So he arranged a meeting and I met him. So the day I came to be like interviewed, I thought I was going to a panel. But it was like to get a contract because he already knew I could fit the description. So we sat in a room like this and I told him, no, even before we got to the room, I found people waiting for me on different doors. Like someone was there, someone was there. Oh, wow. So when I was like, I would come, I have an appointment here. Oh, are you Shiphrah? Yes, they're waiting for you. So they took me to the place. So he was looking for someone that could aid to do a research program with a goal of writing a re-entry guide. This is like a booklet you can give people to prisons to know where they can get the various services that they need upon release. So we did the research. It was about 3 months and it was paying overwhelmingly well, like unexpectedly well, because I remember it was lots of money for 3 months. So when we done it during that period, I met a professor that was heading the project. She's from the University of Illinois. And then she was like, okay, we've conducted the research, but we need to identify, like, the people have expressed when they come out, they need a source of, a place where they can stay, like they need housing. And this is something we haven't found in Uganda. What do you think we need to do about it? So I was in prison. When I was in prison, I did talk to various women. So we would share, I'm in prison, but when I go out, I don't know about my kids. I don't know what I'm going to do. I do not know this. I'm wrongfully jailed. I haven't had a lawyer. I haven't been to court for this one. I haven't been this. I haven't been that. I'm here because of I need to pay like $150. I don't have it. Like those are the challenges that women were shared. So while I lay in my bed, I was like, God, what will I do to help these women? So the lady, the professor, said, I'm going back to USA, but we need to come up with a way we are going to help people coming out of prison. So she came back and then she met one lady. She's called Susan Button. She's in Los Angeles. She runs halfway homes for women that are returning from prison. So she told her there is a gap in Uganda. The gap in Uganda is that the women returning from prisons do not have a place where they can stay. Susan was like, okay, I've done this. Maybe let's go to Uganda and see. So like in a period of 3 months, Susan was on a flight to Uganda. And then when she came up, the professor called me and was like, oh no, before she left, the professor gave me a book. Like, you have to read this book. It was still written by Susan Button, and she was talking about how she went in and out of incarceration during her time. Like she'd been in and out of prison over 15 times in her lifetime. Drug related, she would come out, but each time she would come out, she had no other alternative of survival that she knew of other than going back to the streets that raised her, and that would mean being associated with drugs. So she would go back. And then still in the book, she talks about how she got herself out of this situation. Like the last time she went out of prison, the security guard told her, oh, hi, Susan, bye, Susan, but see you later. Like, see you later, because he knew she would come back anyway. So I was like, why? Prison is not my home. It's not like a resort that you go to, you have fun, and then you would want to go back. Why do I have to come back? So she worked on herself and then used her home to help women returning from prison. Like, she knew, if I'm in this situation, there are other women that are in this particular situation, and so I have to help them. So that is what her book was. So I read this book, and I sent the professor a message. I was like, oh wow, the book you gave me, it is a nice read. And a week later, she told me, guess what? I am coming back to Uganda with the author of the book. I was like, wow, I would like to meet her. So she came like on 3, she's a bit elderly, so she gets tired so fast. So for 3 days that she was there, like the first 3 days, I tried to get her. Like, she would schedule an appointment, but somehow she would be like, I don't think I can make it. Or maybe something would go wrong, so I didn't get to meet her. Until one time I was like, well, I know you have, like, maybe you're tired. Can I come to the hotel where you're staying? And I met her at the hotel. She was like, yeah, sure. So she was like, tell me about yourself, blah, blah, blah. So I told her about the research that we conducted, the need for housing, my incarceration. And she was like, and you studied social work? I was like, yes. we need a social worker to start with. So Susan came back, got money, sent to Uganda, and we started up a halfway home for women returning from prison. Yes, God. So for 5 years now, to date, I have worked at that home and led formerly incarcerated women out of prison and supported them to return to their communities. We do work with the women under the organization is called Wells of Hope Ministries, and we support children that have parents in prison. And because of me, we birthed a project for women returning out of prison. Like when the women come out, they face the stigma that I was talking about. That in Africa, if you know well, like the Africa settings, a woman is supposed to be holy. You're supposed to be righteous. You're supposed to be neat. You're supposed to be perfect in all forms of ways. So if you find yourself in prison and you come out, the blame is on you. Like you put yourself up to this. Maybe you were not careful enough. You did not exercise the patience that you were supposed to exercise as a woman. You were something. They'll blame you for something. So the blame is on you. We always think that it is like a second punishment. And if you know well, like if you've been through like very many things happen to women, they are on the verge of gender-based violence. They do not own property. We are emotionally weak. We always share that we think we women are weak. But have you felt like a woman will be battered by her husband day in, day out at night, but the one time she'll try to defend herself, she'll just give him one push and he'll put the head on the ground and he won't get up. And that is what most women go through. We have an example of a woman that we currently have at the home. She was battered by her husband several times while she was pregnant. She battered, he beat her. And one time she had already given birth and was breastfeeding her child. And the man wanted to hit them both. Imagine you breastfeeding your baby, but he wants to hit the baby. And so she put up a defense. And the man fell down on the ground. He was drunk, intoxicated, and he didn't get up. And she ended up serving 8 years in prison. Yeah, if someone has to serve, it's a jail term. So it doesn't matter if it was self-defense or something, but someone has to be accountable. So we have that particular class of women. So they'll find themselves in prison at any time, for any reason and in any situation. It can just happen. The poverty rates are so high that they will try all means to raise or to be able to support their families. So they will just, it's not like America, you're just working, people are designated in their shops. But a woman in Uganda will wake up and then she has grown her tomatoes and will say, I can sell these tomatoes in the parking spot. And then in maybe for a certain period of time, I'll be able to raise money that I can use to buy food for my kids. But this is against the law, but that is the only place that she has. And she'll be arrested for that. And where are the kids? And where does she come up from? Because if she has been selling tomatoes and that is the only capital she has and it's taken away, she'll have no place to start from. That is the situation that happens. So those are the kind of situations that women in Uganda find themselves in. The illiteracy levels are so high. If you haven't gone to school, your esteem is so low that you can't even stand up in the courts of law and then say, Your Honor, I have a defense. Like, I have a reason why this happened the way it is. No one will do that. Like, a few of them will do that. And if you don't put up to defend yourself, you end up in prison. And you do not have enough money to cater for a lawyer who can defend you, so you are on your own. So it's up to the judge's mercy to decide this is what you want to do, this is not what you want to do. So we have supported the women through this ministry to get out of prison. We have a legal clinic where we do offer pro bono services to the women. We represent them. They come out. We give them shelter. We have a house where the women can stay in a home setting. We offer them the shelter, the food, the clothing. When you are arrested, you go in with one dress and you given the uniform. It's a yellow uniform. So at the point of release, you are supposed to retrieve that dress. Whether you've been there for 20 years, you have to find the dress. Wow. Sometimes you put on extra kgs for 20 years that the dress, like your hand can't even go through. So women have shared that at the point of release, you know what? I don't have a dress to come out to. So we have to get like a dress for her to come out. And then maybe someone tells you, oh, I'm fine because she has a dress. And you find her with no shoes. They'll be like, oh, I have no shoes. She's bare feet. I'm like, what's up? You said, I last had shoes the day I walked in. I haven't had shoes then. So you have to get the shoes for her. So we offer all the basic needs that a woman needs, all free of charge at the house. Because women have unique needs compared to their male counterparts. Absolutely. A man will come out and He'll maneuver. Even if the police comes, maybe he'll be able to run. He can survive a week without taking a shower. He can, but a woman will need a place she will feel safe at, where she can take a shower, where she has her sanitary needs, where she has a bed where she can change into clothing, and those are the challenges that we try to put in place. So if those are not put in place, chances are, for example, if she was into prostitution, because that's the only form of survival she knew of, and she gets to prison, because we do prison ministry. We visit the prisons, we teach them about God, we teach them about Christ. They will give their lives to Christ. But if they are not supported outside of the prison, then that's the alternative they know of. They'll give up. They'll be like, okay, so what do I feed on? Maybe I need to go out there and find a man who gave me $10 and then I can afford a meal. So she'll eventually go back to the prostitution. So we try to make sure we offer services that will help a woman to stay in line, in course of line, as God has called us. So I am thankful. Like, that should have been a testimony. I am thankful that God has put me in a position where I'm able to reach out, to serve Him, to give my efforts, to use my services and my capabilities to reach out to women in prison. Right now, I lead a group of 43 women, all formerly incarcerated, and an association where we meet like on a monthly basis. Such meetings like this, we do meet, we share testimonies, we share challenges, we pray with each other, and we support each other. Like when we are here, we just wake up and are like, anyone with a need, or maybe someone can share with the leader beforehand and be like, our friend so and so is in this and this need. Maybe she needs to raise rent, maybe her child is going through this stuff. Who can support her? So we try to make sure, how do we support her? We do visit the prisons to encourage the women there that life out there is waiting for you. You are valued, you are loved, you are accepted, and above all, Jesus loves you. So you do not have to go into what you feel you are not supposed to be going into because you need to support yourself. You have a group that you can come to, and that can help you to settle in your community. So each particular year as well, we have a gathering for women. Last year we had an amazing one where Pink came and was part of, and so was Casey, where we hold a retreat, a 3-day retreat for the formerly incarcerated women. It has helped me. The last time we had our guiding verse from Philippians chapter 3, verse 13 to 14. Yeah, Philippians chapter 3, verse 13 to 14. Like, I know I press on to the things that I want, because I know I haven't gotten to where I want, but I know with God, I'll get there. So I choose to press on. That is not like the direct, but those are the words that are in there. So I have worked personally with that. And I was sharing the testimony that this is how far God has brought me, that He was using me for His kingdom. If anyone knows, it is almost very, very hard to get a visa to come to America. So I was hoping for one last year because I was supposed to come here, and I prayed over it. I told God, you are going to get me this visa because I am a representative of several women that have been impacted by incarceration. Amen. And you sending me out there to represent them. Amen. I just walked into the office and I was like, oh, incarceration? Oh my God, that's great. I'm giving you the visa. Like, I didn't ask the questions. They didn't ask me the questions, the training ones. I had the visa. And I got to get on the plane for the very first time because of the position that I'm serving. Like, God wants to put me there. And then I was praying, yes, God, use me for your kingdom to what you want me to be. So He put me, He gave me the visa, He provided the ticket, and that happened the first time I was telling my son that if God wants you to be big, you know, like when you're trying to travel in Uganda, they'll tell you, travel to places, go to smaller countries, go to East Africa, get stamps in your passport that will ease your movement. And here I was with my clean passport. The first time it went in, it had a stamp from America. So I always tell my son, when God is using you, He doesn't consider what people are trying to put in your head. Like, travel here, to be able to go to here, you need to first do this. No, He wants to direct you direct to where you've been. So He has used me there. I had that same testimony at the women's conference last year. And I told them, I am in this position because I was incarcerated. If things had been the way I had wanted them to be, I wouldn't have been incarcerated because there was no reason for me to be incarcerated. And if I hadn't been incarcerated, I don't think I would be here right now. And I don't think I would be serving in this ministry. So God put me in the prison to show me that He can take you wherever He wants you to be, through whatever He designs you to be, to get you to where He wants you to be at.
Amen.
And here I am talking and representing women that have been in and out of incarceration. So we are able, through the ministry, we are able to offer counseling services to the women that come out of prison. We do skills development to them because it is almost impossible to get gainful, apart from me who had a chance and then they were looking for someone who had been in prison. It's a rare scenario that you find someone who is saying, I can hire a woman that has been in prison. So we do train these women in various skills that they can use to be sustainably employed. If we teach them tailoring, baking, cooking, knitting, hairstyling and design, makeup, they can go out there and set up an enterprise that can earn them a living. And eventually, they go back, reunite with the children. They are the women are the primary caregivers of their families and the children. So if she's not earning, then chances are that family is going to have issues. So we try to empower the women, to empower the family, and for the betterment of the children that they have. So I am thankful to God to be here. We are able to do all that. Yes, something. Am I running out of time? Okay. So when I walked into this room, I was like, I am glad I am meeting women that love Christ and can understand how far He can take you. We are able to do all this work that we are doing from the support of people that love God, that love the women, that support women empowerment, and that support women becoming better. So that is it. I'm praying and wishing that any of you or you can do missions in Uganda. We've had people coming to Uganda to meet these women, to share stories of hope, to share stories of joy, to share love, to show them that you are not what society has put on your head that is trying to make you, but you can make better of yourself. You can come out victorious. You can come out joyous. So think about making mission trips to Uganda, you guys. I have a group of women. Sorry, I didn't carry any pictures, but I have some on my phone. I have a group of women that will be wonderfully waiting to receive you, that would love your friendship. You can be prayer partners. You can be recovery partners. You can be just friends talking, and then you're like, how is so-and-so? Can I pray with you? They would love so much that. You can even support them in their recovery journey. You can support their life out of incarceration. It could be through prayers or financial support as you're guided. So reach out and get to know more about us. I'll stop here for now. Thank you so much for listening.
Beautiful. Wow. Anybody have any questions?
Yes.
How can we follow you?
Okay, thank you. So I have a flyer here. It can go around. So you can check out our website. And then my email address is just there. But I also have cards that I can share with you all.
Take a picture.